Hello, welcome to the Electrium podcast. On this podcast, we're joined by Gary Hayes and Joe Robinson from Tresham College. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this episode. One of the reasons why we're talking to you is because you're so prominent on YouTube at the moment in our industry, and we're going to get to that in a second. But from your background, how did you get into our industry, and how did you get into the roles that you now have at Tresham College?
So we go all the way back to when I was looking for a job as a 14, 15, 16-year-old career path. Mum and Dad said to me, if you choose electrics, we'll always need electrics, and therefore you'll always have employment. At 14 years old, you're very impressionable by your parents, so I decided at that age that I would work for a company called East Midlands Electricity, and I just had to wait 2 years until I left school to do so. Unfortunately, when I went for the job at East Midlands Electricity, which is now Western Power, they actually had 1,500 applicants for 4 jobs. So I was very fortunate to get through that process and actually get that job. And it's only now in massive hindsight that you see how difficult that was to get it, because at the time you just think, well, I got the job. But obviously when you're working with people trying to get apprenticeships and you've spent that much time with them, and you actually had the same process all those years ago when you got your own.
So in some ways it was was it perhaps like a lottery in some ways?
It was an actual lottery because the 1,500 applicants they had, they actually cut out all the bottom candidates. So they did a line. If you didn't get over the line, they cut them all out. And they actually did the same at the top. The very academic ones, they took those out as well. So it was the middle of the road sort of C's and B's at GCSEs in those days. Now, obviously, 4s and 5s. They went with those people and then randomly selected 10 for interview. Of those 10, 3 got jobs.
Wow.
In the meantime, I was sitting at home waiting to hear back. Never heard anything back. So I rang them. And said, I've applied for a job, I haven't heard anything. And this is a 16-year-old lad picking the phone up himself and ringing. And you heard the lady go, oh, yes, let me just take your name and write it down. You're on a reserve list. I don't believe I was. I believe everybody who rang in asking why they hadn't had a letter about interview actually created the reserve list. They took 10 more people for interview. At this time, there's only 1 job available, and of those 10 people, I got the last job available for East Midlands Electricity.
Wow.
So I was pretty lucky.
Joe, your story?
So I did okay at school. My GCSEs came out pretty well, but I left school and I didn't have the first clue what I wanted to do. I was headed for A-levels kind of purposelessly, really, and then I went on a sort of a voluntary project with my dad and on a construction site, and just met someone who said he was looking for an apprentice to be an electrician, and just was very blessed to kind of fall into it in that way. At the time I didn't even really know what an electrician did or what it was, so I went and did the sort of the trial run and just kind of really enjoyed it. It was so different from anything that I'd done before, and here I was now crawling through loft spaces and sort of getting under floorboards, and it felt like a really big adventure at the time, so I really enjoyed that initially. And then the apprenticeship came through, and again I think it's one of those things we often say to our learners that you've got the open job market, the visible job market, but there's also the hidden job market. That apprenticeship wasn't being advertised anywhere, it was through contacts, and so it's often a good idea just to make contact with companies and see if they're taking anybody on. And then completed my apprenticeship and worked as a sparky from 16.
And did you both want to be teachers at any point at all? Was that ever in the plan at all? Or how did that come about for you guys?
I like to think I would at some point have ended up teaching. But again, towards the end of my time on site, I was working for a company that built fire training simulators at airports, so really big projects, very expensive projects. And when the economy crashed in 2008, that work sort of dried up. That wasn't really working out, and I was looking around for other employment. And someone gave me the job advert, and I looked at the job advert and I went, teaching? God, I can't do that. And then I looked at the advert again and it said 35 days holiday a year, and I thought, well, maybe I could give this a go. So I kind of went into it. And again, when you're sort of a little bit younger, you're not as phased by things. I think you're not, things don't make you as nervous, and I just kind of put my application in and just went for it, really, and it all worked out pretty well in the end.
Gary?
Absolutely not. Okay, so my personality and my performance probably suits the construction industry. So I was very happy working as an electrician. I would still be doing it possibly today. But if I could go and see a parallel timeline, I would have been gutted that I'd never been a teacher. So I would have still been sparking. Unfortunately, I had some issues with a lower back problem caused by just working overly hard from the age of 16, 17, 18 when my body was still developing. I actually ruined the lower part of my back. So I was sort of forced out of the industry. I took a small break and went and worked in admin for about 9 months. The whole time I was in admin, I was an electrician in admin. So I was looking at everything as an electrician. That didn't work out for me, and a job came up at Tresham College in Wellingborough, of which I was trained at, so I knew all the staff there. They were still the same people that taught me that were still working there. And I thought, I'll never get the job. But I applied for the job, went for the interview, and on turning up very nervously, walked into the building. The lady on reception looked up and went, "You must be Gary." And I went, "How do you know that?" She went, "Because you're the only applicant for the job."
Okay.
Okay. And she turned out to be a very, very nice lady and spent a few years with her. Her name was Dee. The pressure just absolutely fell off me. So I thought, this is interesting. So they took me around, showed me the workshop, showed me the classrooms, and then interviewed me. I thought the interview went really well, so that was good. So I was thinking, I'm in with a bit of a chance here with being the only applicant. So I've gone from 1,500 people applying for 4 jobs to now one person applying for 1 job, it felt like. So I got there and I said to him, I thought, that went well. So as I got up, I shook their hands and went, "I'll look forward to hearing you either by post or by phone." No, stop. Take a seat outside the door. I sat outside the door thinking, I know what's coming up here. They pulled me back in and gone, we've evaluated all the candidates, Gary, and we've decided that we're going to give you the opportunity. And I just sat there smiling, of course you have, because I'm the only person that's applied for this job. And part of me is thinking, ecstasy that I've got this job and I'm over the moon, and then part of me is thinking, why has nobody else applied for it? So sort of that devil in the deep blue sea. So I walked out, I ran my dad as I crossed the zebra crossing as I walked to find my car, and my dad was over the moon and mum was over the moon, etc. But it took a little while before I explained to him that I was the only candidate that actually went for that job. I let the moment sink in that I got the job.
You could have kept that to yourself for years, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I like to think that in hindsight you would have got the job anyway, Gary. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I want to talk about the YouTube channel. Very popular. How did it come about for you? When was the moment you thought, you know what, let's start putting a YouTube channel together, let's start showing people how to do things and how to learn things?
It was my wife's fault. Up until 3 months before I started doing my YouTube channel, I'd never watched anything on YouTube. My children use the iPad to watch YouTube, and therefore I thought it was for children, believe it or not. And leading into my son asking to do a channel, I obviously take a mild interest in what was going on, and I discovered it's really clever. It knows what you like and then just sends you videos that you'd like to browse. So I started my son's YouTube channel, and I was between projects. I'm a bit of a bloke that needs something to do. I've done lots of things over time that accumulates so much of my time. So I end up working and doing something else that also absorbs every minute of my day, and I had nothing to do. So my wife sat there just after Christmas 2017 and said, "You need to do your own YouTube channel." I said, "No, I don't." She said, "All the young people on YouTube, you need to do a YouTube channel." Of which I then set about making the most horrific YouTube videos known to man, having hardly ever watched YouTube.
I think that's the case though when you start out.
I took it to new levels. I think I'd like to say that, lack of mic, lack of understanding how to edit and all the rest of it, and just started down that route. But it quickly worked out that if you were leading a group and you were beyond the abilities of the rest of your group and you were waiting to go on to the next task, if there was a video that was helping you move on, it meant the lecturer, in case me in this time, could show them the video and carry on teaching the rest of the class. And also, if you missed a lesson or you'd seen a demonstration, it was many hours before you actually carry out the work. Again, if there was a video there, they could watch the video of me testing the same job as them. And I thought, hello, this is helping me teach. I never expected anybody other than my own learners to watch the videos that now me and Joe produce and Matt. And possibly, Joe, who would you suggest are the least likely to watch our videos?
The people who watch our videos the least are our own learners. We get messages from learners up and down the country, don't we, saying, "Thank you for this, keep going, this is really helpful." And we've got great learners, but often when we come in on a Monday morning, who watched the video we dropped at the weekend, lads? Not many, certainly not all.
But from their point of view for watching it, actually, when they're in the classroom and they're carrying out, say, a testing exercise, and it's identical on YouTube to the job they're carrying out, that's when they do watch them. So they plug themselves into the headphones, they watch it at point of need rather than watching it at point of leisure. So I don't blame them for not watching them at home, because it may not be absolutely relevant to the point in which they're in the classroom theory lessons, but when they do need it at point of use because the demonstration's gone or they've forgotten how to do it, that's when it works brilliantly. And we had a moment, didn't we, Joe, the other week where everyone was sitting down upstairs.
Yeah, we had sort of, with our workshop split into 2 floors, and the upstairs floor you can see from downstairs. It's sort of a mezzanine deck with a hole in the middle, and I sort of stood down at the bottom at one point and looked up, and there was just a row of learners all on their phones, and we sort of said that's quite a bold thing for us to do, because if someone walked in, they'd look up and see a load of learners on their phones not working, and yet we know that actually they're watching the content that we've created that is going to help them with the next stage of their job, because they're all at different stages as well. Everybody works at a different speed. That's the other thing. So the YouTube channels really help with differentiation, don't they? You know, the learners who are steaming on ahead, they've got a video that they can watch while you're helping someone who's a little bit further behind, and vice versa. So it really works out in that way. But we'd have confidence now that if someone did come into the workshop and saw that happening, we'd be quite comfortable saying they're not just on their phones doing nothing. They're on their phones learning from the content that we've created.
That must be really satisfying for you two, that you're putting your own time and effort to make these videos, and you know that not only within your own students, if they do watch the videos like you say, but anywhere in the country, there are people out there who are learning from that, and they're taking something from that for their own careers.
Yeah, because we actually run 2 YouTube channels. So there's GSH Electrical, which is where we have the sort of the installation content and the inspection and testing and various other things, and then we've got Joe Robinson Training, which is the channel that I set up. I had a little break away from Tresham. I worked somewhere else for a little while, and during that period I was teaching CAD, and I didn't have a big projector or a big TV for us to be able to demonstrate CAD skills on. And again, with CAD you get massive differentiation. You get some learners, they just click and they're away with it, but then you get some learners who really struggle with it. And so I started in my own time, again with my own equipment and all my own computer at home. I started filming specific skills on my PC as to how you sort of do different operations in CAD. And then I'd create worksheets with QR codes on, so the learner could scan the QR code, it would take them to a video, and then they'd learn the skill they needed to complete that worksheet. So the lads who'd got it absolutely cracked on with it, no problem. And the ones who were struggling a little bit, they could sort of continue to work at their own pace, and it worked really well. And so when we came back together again to continue working at Tresham, we decided that sort of my channel would be the Science and Principles channel, because that's my thing. I love teaching that. I get really passionate about it. And so we decided that we'd start, we'd keep that almost as separate content. So there was kind of not a division as such, but like a clear containment of different subjects.
People will know where to go to for
absolutely.
For each bit,
yeah. So and again, it's been going for a couple of years, but in terms of the Science and Principles, it's still in its fairly early stages, isn't it? But it's developing quite nicely, actually. It's coming on quite well.
And it's quite ironic because it was actually a YouTube video that got us to talk again socially.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd produced an early-ish video, so the sound quality wasn't great, but it's done very well for me on SY Flex, and you were trying to make an SY Flex at your current employer then.
So I knew how to make an SY Flex off badly, and I needed to know how to make one off well, and not wishing to admit ignorance, I thought, oh no, I'll just quickly check YouTube. So I went on YouTube and typed in SY Flex termination, and the first video that came up, I thought, I know that guy. That's Gary. I used to work with him. So I watched the video. I made off the SY Flex, and then I texted him just the link and said, "Oh look, I've just found you on YouTube." And then about 6 months later, I woke up and I was working at Tresham again.
And for us, that was a great coup to get you back. So that was really good. Yeah. You talked about people around the country watching the videos, and that's the one thing, obviously, because I didn't know anything about YouTube and all the rest of it. That was the really surprising thing for me. When you get what is probably a predominantly male environment, probably from 16 to maybe early 30s, etc., contacting me on social media saying thank you. Yeah. I find that immensely humbling for a number of reasons. Because as a male myself, I don't know if I'd contact somebody I don't know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the mediums I'm on. and then say thank you. You've got to get to a certain point where you think, oh, I'm going to contact
Yeah.
a guy I don't know and thank him. And then we had a bit of an experience, obviously, at the Elect show very recently, where people were just coming up to us and saying thank you. And it's very, very humbling. Isn't
It is really.
I was going to ask that question. Have you been recognised now when you're out of the air, if you know what I mean?
Not in the street.
I'd like to say I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
Oh, well done.
And my kids were with me, and boy, was I impressed with myself. The kids left me because we have YouTube jokes at home. I won't suggest them on the podcast, but so I got stopped. I've been stopped a few times in the street, and my kids have been with me, and I love it because they don't. And when you're 13 and 11, there's nothing less cool than your dad,
especially when your dad's a YouTube
Yeah.
star.
Well, that might be the banter at home, and I've never took that word star or YouTube and all that seriously at all. I'm just Gary the electrician who now works at Tresham College.
Yep.
Has there ever been a moment, or has there even been a moment where you've thought, hang on a second, that this is working, there is doing this YouTube videos, we're onto something here? Was there ever been that moment, or
there's been a few actually. There's the one thing that you get is when you get the nice comments on the videos, because you do get some people coming and saying you're really helping me with my qualification. This is really, really helpful, which is great. But then we get the things that we quite like is when we've been contacted by a couple of other kind of colleges and learning centres, haven't we? And when they contact us and say we'd love to come and see you, or we'd love you to come and see us, that's really, really special, because then we know we're not just helping out learners, which is really important, we're actually helping out other teachers. And we know teaching's not always the easiest job in the world, so if we're doing something to help other teachers out, for me that's really quite special, I think.
Yeah, unbelievably. That we got a video clip sent to us by learners put together. The gentleman had contacted me and asked me what kit we use, and when I told him the kit we use to produce our videos, he was laughing. He was like, "Is that all you use?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "What, to produce your videos?" "Yes." I said, "If you look at the early ones, you look like I've used less than that." But so they started producing their own. They sent us a video clip asking us to come and visit them. And I mean, we stopped what we were doing when I got the message, and we just sat down and watched it together. It was like, wow. And
immediately recorded a response and sent it out, didn't we? Because that's really exciting to us. Yeah, really nice.
And it's allowed us to have massive access to things that I think other colleges would find difficult to do. So we've managed to get the vlogging YouTubers to come in to see us. So when you're thinking about trying to make your industry cool, well, what's cooler than somebody recording themselves at work, maybe being jovial, maybe being educational, but having that banter on screen with people, and then to contact those people and then turn around and say, of course, Gaz and Joe, Matt, we will come and see you. And it started with Luke Wichard. We managed to get Thomas Nagy. We've had Sparky Ninja. We've had a lot of people that have influenced us right up until this point, where this week we had Joe.
A real privilege. We had Mr. John Ward come in, who is arguably the biggest YouTubing electrician in the country. Really, and what a nice guy he was. What a lovely, lovely man he was. And such a, again, it's just nice for our learners, isn't it? That they're getting that experience, and that's what it keeps coming back to, isn't it? It's the experience that the learners are getting that's really good.
And I couldn't believe we got John. So people were saying to me, "Who are you going to get next?" I was doing these rambles, which was really a podcast with pictures. We looked at doing podcasts, and then we found it was going to be a bit of a struggle for us. And I like a rambling program, and I like podcasts. So I thought we'll just do it for a laugh. And then we managed to get people like Darren Staniforth that came to join us for it. So I thought, hang on a minute. So Luke done one with us, and then Thomas Nagy did one. And people kept saying, well, who are you going to get next? And I said, well, we'll try Dave Austin. So we went down to Navigator Productions, and we had one with Dave Austin.
Okay.
That was a great
They kept
day.
saying John Ward. John Ward. So I was almost baiting you. Can you get him? And I thought, well, John won't come. And then I paused and went, but I haven't asked him. So I thought, I'll ask John. So I asked John, and straight away, come back, he said, I can do these dates. I picked a date. Very little contact really with John. It was just very, yes, I'll come. And I was all in my own mind. I'm thinking, will he come? But when you met him, you thought, I know exactly why. He was very just, he's matter of fact, there's information. I've said I'm coming, so I'm obviously coming. And when he came through the door, and I was chatting to him in the early stages, I said to him, you've done 4 hours in the car to get here. You're going to have to do 4 hours in the car to get home. Why have you come to see us, John? He said, because I've been doing my YouTube channel 5 years and nobody had ever asked me. You were the first people. And he said, I'm always going to come and see the first people who ask us. And I was like, wow, it goes back to that. If you don't ask, you don't know, do you?
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that he's not been asked, because he's a very knowledgeable man, and he communicates his knowledge effectively, and everybody knows him. If you say John Ward to most electricians, they know who you're talking about. So the fact that he'd not been asked before was surprising, and we suspect with our video releases of his visit that he's going to get asked more. I think so. Again, maybe some doors have been opened there. Not arrogant to suggest that we're better than those places. It's just that we're trying quite hard, aren't we? And hopefully, if that does open up opportunities for other colleges, then that's another really big bonus.
So, would you say the phrase "doing it for the cause, not for the applause" is applicable?
That's a good expression.
Why didn't we go on that one?
Yeah, because I think that's quite good, actually. I quite like that.
There's no money in YouTube at the level we're at, so no one's going to, we're not driving Lamborghinis and all the rest of it. It'd be nice to buy some better kit. We're not doing it for that. We are doing it first and foremost for our own learners. Yeah. The rebound effect is that other learners are watching it, which has made us very happy. Yeah. And the access to manufacturers that have come in to see us, and obviously YouTube stars in their own right, your John Wards, etc., have come in to see us. So we've got all the benefits of the hard work. And definitely not for a financial benefit. If we did it for money, we'd have stopped about 7 months into it, I would have thought.
What I'm really hoping to see is that when we start getting to the exam kind of heavy period of the year, is just seeing the value of it as a revision tool as well. And especially sort of the technical content that we shoot. Because, there'll be playlists on both channels that are just, right, this exam's coming up, watch this list of videos, and that's the information. Because one of the big problems we find with learners is that they don't know how to revise. They find it very, very difficult to revise, and they view it as, well, I've got to sit down for 2 hours and read a book. Well, there's not many learners who come through our doors that would do that. So now they've got a different resource that they can dip in and out of over a period of weeks, and they've always got the phone on them, so they've always got access to YouTube. It's not like they've got to carry notes around with them to read anymore. So I'm really hoping, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of impact that has during exam times. That's going to be interesting.
And there might be people listening who have got their own business who are thinking, I'd like to give YouTube a chance. Do you think it's something that can help small businesses really expand their portfolio at all, or help them reach new clients?
I think for the outlay cost, which could be a mobile phone and a £16 mic, I think it's definitely worth a go. There's enough free apps, and everybody's smartphone's probably got the ability to do it, to actually produce something. So I think it wouldn't be someone saying, I'm not going to do it because of the cost. I think it's just personal barriers. Are you personally prepared to either record it with you in it or somebody else in it to promote your business? I think it should be something that a lot of companies consider. Especially when looking at, say, products and stuff. But maybe sometimes to give the products to people other than themselves. I think sometimes people review their own products. So they tell you how great their product is. I think some people need to be braver and give their product to somebody else and then say to them, what do you think? Okay.
And if the feedback doesn't come back entirely positive, right, what can we do to change that? And that's how you develop and improve, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to see that happening a bit more.
And obviously you're teachers, and you're teaching apprentices and people coming through to get through into the world of work. But you obviously seem very passionate about it. What is it about apprenticeships in our industry? What is it that... Go on.
Okay, so the apprenticeships, fantastic. We've only just got them back, believe it or not. We've had about a 10-year period where Team Electrical... how many years?
I think it's probably closer to 5. I think it's about a 5-year period.
Is it? Okay, we'll go for 5. Okay, so we've had a longer period of time where we're actually not been involved in the apprentices. So they took them, be careful I say, it didn't take them, but they decided on a different business model where they segregated out the apprenticeship frameworks, and they had it as a sort of standalone business to be more of a flagship area. And we, in Team Electrical, were doing full-time learners, which is possibly my passion. I like to see somebody come from school who didn't do as well as they could have done, and then obviously progress through the electrical team and then get an apprenticeship. That's the happiest moments I can be, is when a learner that didn't get an apprenticeship at 16 from school walks through the door and says, Gaz, I got that job. That's the main reason to come to work. And it was facilitated by the fact that I never had access to the apprenticeships for such a long time. This year, September 2018, we got our apprenticeships back. So they've brought them in-house, we've increased the staff in-house, and they've decided that we're not going to have it standing alone, we're going to embrace it back into the core curriculum. Yeah. And our first year apprentices are any good, Joe?
They are really, really good, aren't they? They've come in, and ask any of our learners, and we expect a lot from our learners, don't we? We've got very high expectations in terms of behaviour, commitment, and they have just risen to it, haven't they? They've totally got on board with it. They understand what we're trying to achieve for them, and they've embraced it, across the board. And they're the group of learners that you look forward to seeing, that you look forward to teaching. Very much so.
Giving us a chance to reconnect to industry as well. So what we try to do with them is if they go to a job and the wiring system that they're looking at, because they're going to do some work there, has failed in some way or is not compliant, they've been taking little photographs and discussing with us in class. And when they've done a fantastic job, they've also then taken a photograph and shown us what they're doing at work. So it's that we've now got a full link between what we're doing in the actual workshop and classroom to the industry itself.
Absolutely.
Well, people might watch the videos and think, they do, they look so polished, they do so well. But what they probably don't see is there are probably times where you come to retake it, you do a video and you think, that didn't look good. That must happen.
It's funny you say that, because actually they did get a little glimpse of that recently, didn't they? Because I accidentally released a video that I'd left a chunk in where I went horribly wrong. And I just missed it in the edit completely, and I released it, it went out, and then suddenly, halfway through my introductory kind of comments, you can just hear me going, Joe, come on, you got this, sort it out, come on. And someone fortunately texted me really quickly. One of our acquaintances, Paul Meenan, texted me really quickly and said, I don't think that video is right. It's not as smooth as it normally is, and instantly just took it straight down. Just no. Fortunately, I don't think anyone outside the workshop had seen it by that point, so it didn't get too far. But yeah, it was one of those where you sort of think, we'll live and learn. We'll be a little bit more careful next time.
There might be a sense of authenticity there that people might enjoy from that, though, in some ways.
Yeah.
We've released about 3 outtake videos. I did one on Christmas Day. Just throw a video out on Christmas Day. You've got to make it, a reason to watch it, because it might be mildly funny. To humanise me and the team, because I did about 164 videos before I actually got, I think, anyone else involved in them. And I was Captain Robot in front of the camera, because I was constantly looking at the clock going, I've got another 14 minutes before I need to sort out my lesson. I've got to get this in the can. I need to edit it tonight. I'll need it next week. And I was very like that. So, of course, the rambles, the outtakes videos, and the learners embracing the learner's journey actually created a more human side of me.
I think that was the only 2 pieces of advice that I gave you when we were chatting again, wasn't it? One was microphones, get a good mic, and that's a recommendation to anyone thinking about YouTube, and get a half decent mic. Don't rely on your camera mic, and let your personality out, I think was the other one.
I've been watching your videos, Gary, but where are you?
Yeah, I see this guy, he looks like you but that's not you.
Probably an obvious question and probably an obvious answer, but how important are apprenticeships in this industry?
Well,
critical, crucial.
It's how to get one. We're now teaching them, which is fantastic, and we've had all those years where we didn't teach them. So of course now hopefully we can build the reputations up between us, the learner, and the company. So we're hoping for repeat business, but only having them back in September 18 means obviously we haven't got the learner going back going, I'm having a massively positive experience. We love Gaz, Joe, Matt, and all the rest of it. So of course we haven't got that route to apprenticeships. So it's very difficult for our full-time learners. So our full-time learners, if they didn't get a job when they left school, maybe they need to raise their GCSEs. How do we get an apprenticeship? And we're going to do some stuff on this, aren't we? So it's a good time to bring these bits up. We believe that possibly, unless you're lucky, so your mum, your nan works at RS Components or Weetabix, big companies around here, you've got to do something slightly different. So a letter might not get read, an email might get deleted, but turning up with a personal statement, a photograph in the corner, asking to speak to somebody about apprenticeships, and then offering yourself up for free work experience. Even for people in school, with your school holidays, they'll say to you, we can't allow you to go on site, and you go, that's not a problem. I'll clean the vans in the morning, I'll sit and listen to you doing the phones, can I maybe interact with the design team? I absolutely want to be an electrical apprentice. I've also suggested to them the best place to find electricians is at wholesalers. If a wholesaler opens at 7 o'clock, you're either at school or at college during a half term, You can sit outside there from 7 o'clock in the morning with a flask of tea, small piece of cardboard that says, I don't need food, I don't need a drink, I just need an opportunity with a pile of letters. I'd like to think the electrical wholesalers may let you sit inside in February as we're shooting this, but you've just got to go that extra mile. You've got to stand out. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do that. There's your first barrier to getting an apprenticeship is you. You're not going to do anything beyond a letter or an email or a phone call. No one's going to knock your front door. You've got to go out and try and get a different way of getting an apprenticeship. It's so sought after. The money for qualified electricians, we're moving towards a smart industry. It's going to be super cool. Those jobs are worth having. You know, you can leave school. I do this with my students where I say, if at 16 you decide to start and do A-levels for 2 years and a 3-year teaching degree, you can go and be a primary school teacher and start on £26,000 a year. If you get yourself an apprenticeship, after 4 years of completing an apprenticeship and you're starting your HNC, because you'll have to, that's what we're saying, isn't it, Joe? You've got to start HNC after your apprenticeship.
That's where we're trying to
get them to
send
go.
them. Yeah.
No debt, you won't be on £26,000 a year. You know, you just won't be on it, and you won't have £40,000 or £50,000 worth of debt. This is a job worth having. So to get an apprenticeship, you've got to try all the things that you don't want to do.
And the other good thing as well is at the college we've got a really good work placement team as well, because all of our learners have to do work experience as part of their core program. So our full-time learners have to go and sort of get work experience, and we've got a good team that sort of help them with that, and we're seeing a little bit of conversion there as well, aren't we? We're saying to them, when you go to work experience, you've got to be the best version of you that you can be, so that you are trying to sell yourself to the company. They're going to look at you and say, oh wow, this is the best thing we've ever done, this work experience. We've actually got a lad who we want to take on. It's really, really important that they embrace that, that they engage with that process. But
it's a bit like a try before you buy, both sides. Student goes to the company and does some work experience and doesn't like the company but loves the job, then they're obviously not going to convert that to an apprenticeship. Likewise the other way around. I think what generally happens is they both like each other and then they work towards the apprenticeship. I think a year ago, so we're talking academic year 17-18, academic year 17-18, we converted level 1 learners. 50% of them got jobs connected to the industry and therefore didn't return to do a level 2. And of those, we got 3 apprenticeships at RS Components, an apprenticeship at Anglian Water. So we were getting sort of blue chip end, as well as 2 and 3 man bands taking on a young lad as an apprenticeship as well. And a lot of that was through quality of work experience.
And I guess one thing you may say as well is the learning never stops. As different technologies come in. Just because once you leave this world and you go into the world of work, there are different things to learn and continue to learn and upskill yourself. And
actually that again ties in nicely with what we're doing on YouTube, because as that technology comes along, and we're always trying again to be as far ahead as we can be in terms of stuff that's coming in. Hopefully if people have kind of almost been on their journey alongside us, through the YouTube channel, that actually that journey continues, that they keep on watching the new material. Granted, they might not be interested in some of the more fundamental stuff that we produce for the beginners, but you can be sure that they'll see something on there at some point that will go, oh, I didn't know about that, I'll look into that. And really that's whatever walk of life you're in. I think that's so important, just to keep on learning, to keep on finding out new stuff, just to keep yourself kind of mentally sharp. I think it really helps in that sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've said it in a few of my videos. For a long time at college, we were behind the curve. Well, we're certainly not in front of it, but we have installed arc fault detection devices. We install surge protection with our level 1 learners. We're using torque screwdrivers for the past 3 or 4 years. We use the glands that Whisker provide, etc., to support cables. We talk about premature collapsing with our learners, and we expect them at level 1 and beyond to be able to explain the reasons why we don't want a premature collapsing of a surface wiring system, where surge might be introduced. That ACRCDs are not a very good idea anymore. Why not? And these are level 1 and beyond learners. We don't ever teach anyone to pass their course, which is an odd statement if you've got this far in. We
always say this, don't we?
We teach them to be an electrician. That doesn't mean they're going to be one, but we take every single learner at the same point when they arrive. We're training them to be an electrician. You will pass your exams by default because you will have had enough information to do that. But within 3 or 4 weeks of being here at level 1, they'll tell you the IP rating of the top of a surface of electrical enclosure and the rest of it. That's probably a level 4 question. Never going to be in the realms of that But if you're an electrician on site and there's a hole in the top of a box, you've got to know that that's not acceptable. So if you know it's not acceptable on week 2, well, we're off and running. It's those type of things.
And because our expectations are quite high, we're capturing a lot of these young people at what is still quite a malleable age. So we're sort of their characters and their mindset really is still in a position where it can be tweaked. So we're hoping that when they leave us and they go out into the big wide world, they take that with them, and that mentality then goes into industry, and hopefully try and improve standards.
And that links back to the apprentices. So of course the apprentices get the same information, because it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a level 1 full-time learner or a level 3 year 1 apprentice, of which we got back this year. They're taking photographs of top of electrical enclosures, they're taking photographs of broken sockets, they're taking photographs of cables that are incorrectly clipped, and what we had them 16, 17 weeks at this point. And none of that's in the requirements for year 1 of their apprenticeship. It's the requirements to be an electrician, and that's what we're pushing. That's what makes us smile so much in it. That access now to industry through apprenticeships is brilliant.
Really good.
No, absolutely not.
We're going to finish on the plug, gentlemen. If people want to find your YouTube channels or socially, where can they go?
All of mine are the same. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and the YouTube channel, I'm obviously GSH Electrical and all of those positions. And Joe?
I'm not quite as social network savvy as Gaz, so I'm on YouTube as Joe Robinson Training, and on Twitter as Joe R_training. So that's where you'll find me.